one of the things, and then keeping in touch. I'm still inside the Valentine's Day spirit, and there's nothing more that I love. I tell my wife this all the time. Technology comes first. She understands. She married me, but one of the things that kind of leads into everything that everybody else was talking through today is what are the patterns? What are the things that make building, deploying, modernizing our infrastructure simple? How do we keep moving forward, keep innovating in a way that will continuously build and innovate and allow our developers, our engineering teams, and other parts of the organization to keep moving forward? And one of the things that I've been implementing here at Viva is a GitOps pattern. And I love this pattern so far in order to simplify the release. So what is GitOps in general? Just to start off, is a pattern in which everything is actually set to a specific source of truth. Inside GitOps, it's a Git pattern, GitHub, Bitbucket, or something. You actually store your information as if it was any part of code. So not only are developers building and implementing their code, but also the infrastructure and the state at which it's in is also loaded as code. It's loaded, it's saved, and it's able to be retrieved as any other development package would be. You could revert, you could move forward, you could keep moving that forward. But why is that important, right? Why do you want some type of pattern in order to implement your infrastructure? And I will actually go back to a lot of the things that were talked about inside this call in general. We, as engineers, as DevOps engineers, our job is to facilitate the business, facilitate the engineers, make life simple in order to move forward. So when I first got here, we started building a brand new product, big data engineering product. Consolidate hundreds of billions of records and be able to provide it to businesses in order for business to leverage the data to solve big medical problems that are in the world today. As you can imagine, the pandemic or cancer research or other types of research. So what we wanted to do was start off this product and make sure that we had a few things in mind. We wanted the platform to be simple. We wanted to be fast. We had to get to market. And we wanted to make sure that we had a way that the developers could move into a market as fast as they possibly can, right? As we had great talent, how do we get that out to our customers as fast as possible? We also wanted it to be reproducible. The whole purpose of GitOps, and when you start running into a lot of problems inside your infrastructure, it is typically because changes are made in lower environments that are not reproducible or very hard to track in higher environments. So we needed a way to make sure that every single environment, as the development cycle goes, is always reproducible. And then we needed to be auditable. Highly compliant company. We want to know what changes are being made, what's inside each environment. If somebody would come to me and ask, what version is in environment A, B, or C, I needed to be able to know exactly what that was, what part of the life cycle it was in, was it tested, was it validated, can we move it into production? So we needed to be auditable. And from there, we went into a GitOps mindset. So there were a few different tools that I leveraged in order to do this setup. for a GitOps workflow. There's a lot of good tools out there, but the ones that I chose was ArgoCD, Kubernetes in general. Kubernetes was our main workflow engine in order to move our infrastructure within the cloud, currently in the cloud, as well as a tool called Customize. And when you merge all these three things together, you get to deploy infrastructure extremely quickly. You get to launch it and always have it simple, customizable, as well as auditable. And we know what's happening. With Argo, what you gained was a visualized representation of what was inside your infrastructure. So yes, you could leverage some type of Kubernetes dashboard, but how do you know if what the state that was checked in is actually what was in the environment, right? The developers push their changes. We have it inside production. Do you know for a fact that somebody didn't make a change inside the environment just to speed along something that was happening? Do we know that it's reproducible into production? With Argo, Argo keeps everything in sync. So the state that's currently inside the Git repository is exactly what is in your environment. There's no changes. If somebody makes a change, it gets reverted. You know for a fact that it is there. And one of the things that I love about that, it is auditable. I could go to any one of my auditors. I could tell them exactly what happened. I know that by mistake, somebody didn't make a change and was reverted. And I know I could replicate a production environment very easily. Or if I wanted to build a pen testing environment, a QA environment, I could spin this up and make sure it is exact copy of what we currently have released. And I do that currently leveraging something called Customize. So when you merge Argo and Customize together, you're actually able to leverage reproducible templates. And when we have reproducible templates, we could actually have a distinct environment. In this case, we have a base image, a base YAML, which is what the environments are currently labeled as within Kubernetes. And you get to patch them with specific environment types. So in this case, I patch it with some dev image, or maybe a dev environment variable, or the same for production and so on. So you're able to very customize the template in order to release it into a specific environment. And I'll show you in a second, but I actually have everything broken down into a very specific environment. I have a link to the GitHub repository that I'm going to be demoing in a second, but the environments are broken down very consistently. And I do that on purpose. So you're able to actually leverage higher level templates and build reproducible patterns. So in this pattern, we have environments within the Argo system. We have common services that are used across all of our environments, things like ingress controllers or our metric server or somewhat. We have applications that have been developed by the team. Now, these are not the actual applications. This is not the code itself to build a website or whatever it may be. This is the configuration of that application and how it should be released. Should it have a service? Should it have a load balancer? Is it going to be externally facing to the public? Those are the type of patterns that you would leverage here. And inside the environment is where you would actually define customizable results. So do you need it to have different environment variables? Do you need it to have a specific image? And the way that it would work is once you commit this, Argo would see this and automatically configure it. Now, just with that one repo, you're able to build and reproduce multiple environments. development, staging, production, however many environments you would need, even build environments on the fly, just by having a singular repository for your configurations of your infrastructure. And since we know exactly what's in every environment, you're able to reproduce that environment as many different times as you would need just by committing right back to that repo, leveraging the same templates. So I'm going to go in, and it'll seem a lot more clear once I start going through the actual demo. But for those that want to follow along, here is the link that the repo that I'm going to be using. So for this demo, what I'm actually going to be doing is getting us into production within, I don't know how much time I have left, we'll say within the next 10 minutes. So just to give you a little bit of background on the actual repo. So this is basically what we saw on the slide deck. I have my environments right over here. These are the actual clusters. So if I have a Kubernetes inside an environment, this is where I would set it up. Very, very simplistic, and we'll kind of go through it right now. But as of right now, I have a specific environment, one for dev, one for prod, and one for QA. Different, say, AWS accounts, different Kubernetes. And then I have one, which I'll demo today, is I just want one Kubernetes environment with different namespaces that has everything. I want to test it all out. And then from there, we're able to deploy it specifically based on the actual environment cluster. So if I need development to have a specific version of an application, I'm able to control it here. And over here, we're gonna demo two sample sites. So this is what you could imagine a developer service would look like. An application, any type of application, and what's inside of here is an actual representation of a Kubernetes resource. Very, very simplistic. So this is just a simple deployment on how you would deploy any standard Kubernetes and a service to make sure that I could connect to it afterwards. Very, very simple, but you can make this as complicated, as robust as you would need it for that specific service. So the details on how that service would be represented would be here inside the sample site. So since I've probably already wasted 2 of those minutes and we haven't got a single service into any environment yet, let's move and try to get a service that the developers asked us to push. So this will typically be done via CI/CD, but I have a developer. The developer has committed their code and has built a sample application, the sample site 1, and they want to release it. So the first thing that would be done is we would go in, and this will typically be done in the CI/CD pattern, but what would happen is within this environment, within the dev cluster, we will point our resource to the application site that was created. So this would say, I want to deploy a deployment and a service to my application into that resource. And I want to deploy version, let's say 1.0 for right now, right? This is all that needs to happen, right? And as soon as I commit this into a repository, I'm committing this directly into the repo that I showed you earlier. What you would then see is this automatically sync. So what would happen is this will start going through and start building the environment. This checks periodically every 30 seconds, every minute. But what I'm going to do is just force the sync to move this along. And what would happen, as you can see, is automatically all the services that are needed for that application will automatically start building very quickly, very easily. So boom, there we go. The application is deployed, and you can see inside our, let me see, inside the dev stable namespace, you could see that our service has been deployed, sample site. And if we go into service and forward this, let's put this on, say, port 1111, I should be able to, oh, this is port 111. I was testing it earlier. I should be able to go in and see the actual site. As you can see, this is version 1 of our website. Very quick, very easily. Now, great. Developers saw it, they developed, they want to push it into QA. So they want to see what is actually happening. So let's go back to our environment. Everything is done via a singular repository in order to push this environment. So we go to QA and they want to deploy it into our pre-prod environment. So we would do the same thing. It is the same exact template that was used before. So we know it is exactly the same site that was deployed, and our developers wants to release exactly the same version. So as soon as we commit this, and push it into our repository, we would see, and I deploy this into pre-prod, that I'm going to sync to speed it along. Our site will automatically start launching. So right now, within the past 5 or so minutes, we got our application into development and into QA for validation testing. Let's move it along. Let's get ourselves all the way into production. So within the production cluster, I'm going to use exactly the same site and going to release the same image. I'm going to git commit. I'm going to git push. And inside our production environment, which had nothing before, our site will automatically get launched. Now, this will be consistent. And if I was to make a change on the Kubernetes cluster itself, let's say delete the pod or what would have you, what would happen is, let's say delete, somebody by mistake deleted something. What would happen, it would automatically sync again. And as you can see, everything is being deployed. Keeping the state is the name of the game, making sure that we understand what's in every single environment. Now, one service is good and all, but the developers are going to continuously build. Now, as you can see, the developers want to move to version 2.0, and maybe they even have a secondary app that they want to test. So let's go into our development cluster, and let's enable the secondary site. So now they started to test their secondary site. They want to launch the secondary site. They want version, say not 1.0, but in this case, let's do 2.0 for our secondary site. And they want to push version, say, for the single sample site to pre-prod with version 2.0. So commit and push. And with just that, we're able to see that our applications, just force the sync. We'll start updating our secondary site in our development environment. And inside our pre-prod environment, we'll start updating to our 2.0 release, as you could see here. So once we go and start seeing all of our services, let's go to our, let's say, our pre-prod namespace. We would see our release. Let's go and forward the request. 8888. Now we have version 2.0 in our release. And we're able to reproduce this several different times within our environment. So as simple as it was to just have a template solution within our environment, duplicate that data and push it into Kubernetes, it's as simple as it would be to just copy this folder and build a whole nother environment. You're able to leverage many different environment variables here to very customizable, customize your actual release if you need something to be very specific. But right now we have a single place of truth, we have it auditable, and we have it in a way that is simple and quick to release into any environment in the matter of a few minutes. So I probably went over a little bit on those 10 minutes, but we were able to get our application, in this case, 2 applications, from a development environment through our QA environment and even into production with maybe five or 6 clicks commits into a single repository. So with that, I will drop my demo, and I'm happy that everything actually worked. But let me exit this, and I'll drop it back to Dan.